America.
Oh, not with that, you're not.
It's Around the Horn, delivered by Pizza Hut. Here's Tony Reale.
Hey now!
Hey now! Welcome back to the show that scores the argument. I believe you know the national panel in Los Angeles, Bill Plaschke.
Tony, just me and you and a dog named Boo, traveling and living off the land.
Spitting game. Paige in Denver.
As Gerald Ford said in 74, my fellow Americans, our national long nightmare is over.
Tim Kalishaw in Dallas.
Make sure these balloons say 250 wins in less than 900 shows. That's
Hold your
his
breath,
balloon,
PC Smith. in
Are you
Boston.
making me sit on 98 because you know I'm going to retire at 100?
Oh, so you think you're sitting on a number
Sitting
to
on
not
98.
get to 100? Kalishaw thinks he's
right.
sitting on
right
249?
there.
I'm
go to
not
work.
sitting. I'm doing work.
It's the first word.
We start with a total lack of creativity from the New York papers. Look at that!
Whoa.
Somebody's in trouble.
It's like when Kramer went to First and First, the nexus of the universe. The deal finally done. Our long national nightmare, as Woody Page said, blah, blah, blah. Melo, now with Amare, and not much else. Landry Fields, Chauncey Billups, Sheldon Williams, Ronaldo Balkman Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. What do you make of what the Knicks have done, Michael Smith?
I think they did very well. When I watched the All-Star game Sunday, I did not see Dylan Gallinari. I did not see Timofey Mozgov. Only the time I see him is in Blake Griffin highlights anyway. I didn't see Raymond Felton. I didn't see any of those guys. I saw Carmelo Anthony. They got a 26-year-old, four-time All-Star scoring machine. They did very well for themselves. Some of the commentary about this deal is comical to me, talking about, oh, the Knicks bid against themselves or they played themselves. You cannot guarantee that Carmelo Anthony was not going to change his mind and take that money from New Jersey or even Denver. He wanted the extension. He kept insinuating that he wanted the money. The Knicks had to get this deal done. They couldn't assume that he was going to take less money to come there in the offseason. They assumed with LeBron last year. They were fortunate that they had enough money just to hand him Amar'e Stoudemire, and now they want to think they're geniuses because they stumbled upon Stoudemire
Kalishaw,
and they're a
you wanna
500
jump
team.
in
Michael,
there?
they
did
were
well
bidding
this
against
time.
themselves because Carmelo had created this scenario where he was only wanting to be traded to the Knicks, so he probably was never going to end up with New Jersey. I got to start with giving him credit like Michael did. If you looked at the Knicks a year ago and you said in a year they're going to have Amar'e Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony, then you say, how do
that
they
was
do it?
the idea.
That's brilliant. But we'll never know about the guy who made this possible, Donnie Walsh, who made it possible to have Stoudemire and a superstar and keep a lot of these things that ended up getting traded to Denver. So now they've got to start from scratch, building around these guys with the obvious problem that neither one of these guys wants to play any defense.
Paige.
I think the Knicks pulled off an exceptional deal. They didn't get rid of Amar'e Stoudemire, their only superstar, if you will,
That was never
to get
in
him
question.
Carmelo Anthony. They haven't been relevant in the entire millennium. You got to go back to the days of Patrick Ewing, the last time they actually competed in the playoffs and got anywhere. So, yes, I think by bringing those two players together and the X factor of Chauncey Billups, who brings him leadership, a guy who's been in 9 conference finals, can actually stabilize that backcourt, get the ball to Carmelo Anthony as he did in Denver, can work Stoudemire in, somebody that knows how to get him the ball. I think when you add up all those factors, this is a team that can get in the playoffs, that can be relevant in New York and the NBA again, and it's a great deal. And despite what Tim said, the Nets could have signed him.
Woody and Michael, you're both alluding to truth here, and the truth is that in 6 months from now, the Knicks could have gotten him for nothing. They didn't need to trade 4 young stars for this guy and then all these draft picks. They could have gotten him for nothing. You look, all the smoke was in the air. He loves New York. He was going to go to New York. Why did they make the deal now? Mike D'Antoni didn't like the deal. Donnie Walsh didn't like the deal, and I don't like the deal. They gave away way too much. Their team is thin. 2 words, Ronnie Turiaf.
Okay.
He's their center now.
Let's
Ronnie
let Smith
Turiaf.
get back in there.
That's such a huge assumption, Bill, and that's a huge
don't think
risk
it
to
is,
take.
Michael.
No, because the money wasn't going to be there for him. So you know, in a couple of weeks, if he would have re-signed with Denver to get that extension, that's not going to be there with the new CBA, or gone to New Jersey, we'd all been sitting on this show saying they should have pulled the trigger when they had the chance. They got the guy that they wanted. They gave up supporting cast players
Bill,
from a 500
respond.
team.
Michael, there's enough signs there. Michael, there's enough signs there that they should have waited. They're still New York. He still wanted to go to New
why
York
didn't
with the
they?
college.
They must
There's
have
enough
known that
signs
it
there.
wasn't a
They
sure
should
thing.
have
Why
waited.
did they
gave
make the
away way
trade?
too much.
Kalishaw.
It's great from a New York sort of entertainment value type thing. I think as this year and going forward, you look at the East, that's not going to be a top 4
Paige.
team.
Bill, you're just bitter that they didn't trade him for Ron Artest and some garbage, but they actually, if it hadn't worked out, I still think he would have signed with the Nets at the 11th hour and
No
gone
way.
there.
No
yes,
way.
he would have.
No
I know.
way.
Clearly, there was a chance he wasn't going to come. They wouldn't have done a deal.
3 starters, 3 picks, $3 million, and a Timofey Mozgov that may or may not have been key to the deal. That's what went to Denver. An extreme makeover for your Nuggets, Woody Page. How do you think they did?
Well, I think they did exceptionally well when you compare it to the situation they had years ago with Dikembe Mutombo, where they got nothing. When you compare it to Cleveland, which got nothing because of LeBron James leaving. Chris Bosh leaving Toronto. What did Toronto get? Nothing. So they did get several starters. They did get potentially good players that are still young, that were #1 draft choices. They got an international team now that they can put together when you add Nene into the mix. They got a team that will still compete for a playoff spot this year. George Karl actually likes dealing with these kind of circumstances. I think he can pull his team together. In Raymond Felton, they got a guy that can work with Ty Lawson, their future starting point guard, and I think this deal actually works extremely well for the
Yeah,
Nuggets.
you know what? I agree with Woody. You ask the people in Toronto how Denver did. Ask the people, in Cleveland how Denver did. They'll all say they did tremendous because they got something. And these guys, okay, they're not stars now, but there's a lot of potential there. Everybody loves Gallinari, a 6'10" guy. Could be the next Dirk Nowitzki. Everybody, Raymond Felton will work great with Lawson at the point guard. Again, they have a good young team, a good young future. Plus, they have 3 draft picks. George Karl, it's not going to happen for him this year, but they have a chance in the West with the Lakers eventually declining, things turned around. They have a chance a couple years down the road to make something happen.
Kalishaw?
Yeah, but this is a team that's less than 2 years removed from playing the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals and having a mostly fairly young core of players around Carmelo. And what is it now? It's not even a playoff team in all likelihood moving forward. No. It's got some pieces of players. It does not have a star player. The draft picks, 2 of them are second-round picks, so the draft picks are largely irrelevant. They did a good job because Carmelo put him in an impossible situation, saying, I want to be a Knick. But let's not act like they got a whole bunch for him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to compare it to getting nothing, then yeah, they did well for themselves because they actually got something. But they didn't make out like bandits here. I mean, look, the bottom line is they got starters from a 500 team in the Eastern Conference. They don't have a star. They're not going to contend anytime soon, so they can pat themselves on the back for clearing cap room and getting young players who may turn out to be good. Maybe Gallinari is the next Dirk Nowitzki. Maybe Wilson Chandler is going to be a stud. I have my reservations about that, but they did get something in return. And Kalishaw is right. This was a very difficult position. Carmelo's preference was the Knicks. The better deal was from the Nets in terms of the draft picks, Derek Favors and Devin Harris. They had to try to make everybody happy here, and they got the most they could.
Do you think the Nuggets got the best deal, Paige?
Yes, as much as they could. Sure, they don't have a, quote, superstar anymore, but they weren't going to have anything at the end of the season. So as a result, they did get a quality point guard in Felton. Gallinari could be a star in this league, so they took a chance, and I think it's better than nothing.
Bottom line, Carmelo ended the first half of the season playing out of his mind, and guess what? They still weren't contenders with him playing out of his mind. So they weren't going to win with him, they could win without him.
Michael touched on this, the rumors we heard for so long about the Nets with Favors and 4 picks. And Harris, that would have been a much better deal if they could have pulled it off than this.
You guys were supposed to be mellowed out sports writers. Doesn't really strike me as mellowed out.
Not over this.